Yeah, yeah, it's the power hour where the bruises eat. No finesse, no flukes, just backs that punish. Fantasy gold in the mud, let's eat. Yo, welcome to the power hour.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in tonight. We got a real special episode. We kind of look into this as a 26 class is coming in. We got college football starting this week, so I really had to think about it. Who do I want to bring on here? And nobody more than Dustin, the Elite Empire. I had to bring him on. We had to do it. I'm so excited to have you on, Dustin. Thank you for coming on.
Hey, Andy, man, thanks for having me. You know, we talked about this a few months ago. You and I in the DMs were like, hey, got to get on eventually, one of us on each other's shows and just talk some ball. So I'm excited to be here, man, talking about my favorite thing in the world, which is future prospects.
Yeah, and you're great at it, man. I love you and Chris Sicard, man. You guys put on a great show. I've been listening to a couple shows. They're awesome. I'm learning a lot, and I think I'm going to learn a lot tonight, too, as we kind of jump into these guys, because how we have to do this playing Dynasty is these picks will fluctuate in value as well. I mean, we have guys that come out of nowhere. It was Tang for Tua at one time, right? Now,
yeah.
Joe Burrow came out of nowhere, and Joe Burrow was the guy. So sometimes there's these guys that come out of nowhere, and sometimes these guys that we think are going to be good just don't hit. So we're going to talk about some of these prospects and just kind of see what Dustin thinks, and then just some of the stuff that I've seen and how I feel. But he's going to be the main guy in this show. He's your go-to man. So let's just jump right into it here. And I kind of want to just talk a little bit about your show. So like kind of if you could tell the people just kind of what you guys do and what your show's about.
Yeah. Well, thank you. It's Devi Dojo. So primarily we're going to be talking about some college ball, these future prospects. But we're not limited to that. You know, the other portion of Devi is you do have your dynasty roster. So we're talking about Dynasty 2, game theory, just college ball in general. What I always tell everybody is you don't have to play any college fantasy football to enjoy the Devi Dojo. If you just enjoy college football, or if you want to get ahead of your league mates to, you know, get a leg up and start learning about some of these prospects ahead of time, kind of like what we're doing tonight, then Devi Dojo is for you. So just super excited. Always love doing it, man. It's a blast. My co-host, Chris, actually, he always says he thinks that Devi is the future of fantasy football. And, you know, he did get to go to the Fantasy Football Expo a couple weeks back, and he got to sit on a couple expert panels right across from Rich from Dynasty Nerds, actually. And he was talking about this, how Devi's the future. And at one point, people weren't playing Superflex. At one point, people weren't playing Dynasty. And he just really, and I agree with the sentiment that it's next up. So super happy to be out here promoting my favorite format, which is Devi.
Yeah. And talking about Dynasty Nerds real quick, I've met Rich and them guys are awesome. Super nice people.
Yes.
Always love supporting Dynasty Nerds. Just super nice. But yeah, I haven't been to the expo in a couple years. I missed out again this year. So I heard they're having it in July next year. So hopefully that'll kind of fit my schedule and maybe we can even meet up there.
Yes, sir. I'm definitely going to be there this next year. So
awesome. I'm kind of lucky. I'm around Pittsburgh, so Canton isn't too far away. So
yeah, I got to fly. I'm out here in Colorado, so it's a little bit more of a trip for me.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, let's get right into a little bit about this NIL deal stuff. So like, because we were kind of touching on just PMs and everything, like, so how's this really affecting the whole landscape for you guys, and like how you evaluate these prospects, and like what can we expect? And is this something that's going to get even bigger that we feel like within the next 5 years?
Well, I mean, first of all, the biggest impact that NIL and even the transfer portal, the biggest impact that it's had is on these lower level, kind of like these less recruited running backs and even wide receivers who want to play sooner, right? So they go to these lower level schools, they can play, get their stock up, and then they transfer up in competition. We saw this with Jahmyr Gibbs not that long ago, going from the ACC up to the SEC when he transferred up to Bama. We are seeing it now this year with a guy named Mekhi Hughes, who transferred up from Tulane, and now he's going to get the chance to play at Oregon. I mean, to an extent too, you saw it with Jaden Daniels, right? He went from Arizona State to LSU, really got that chance to elevate that stock. And Bo Nix too. I mean, going from Auburn, I mean, that was a different situation, but the ability to go there and go to a new situation, maybe tougher competition, really elevate that stock, it's invaluable for these guys. I mean, you don't have a Jaden Daniels being drafted second overall if he doesn't go to LSU, right? And so I love it. You touched at the top about these prospects that kind of come out of nowhere. Jaden Daniels was a guy that wasn't really on anybody's Devy rosters because he was looked at as a third, fourth round pick. You know, he gets the new situation, second year in the system, just explodes. And so you see that, and it's this new era. I mean, Cam Ward too, right? Going from Washington State, obviously, and becoming the number one overall pick. So I just love this current era that we're in. I think when it first started, you had the naysayers, right? The boomers going, what's going to happen when you pay these kids millions of dollars? Well, really all it's happened is it's taught them to be like semi-pros, and it's almost like reaching free agency every year for these guys. And so they come into the league a little more prepared, and they're not these wide-eyed, bushy, bright starred eyes guys looking around saying, what do I do? They're somewhat professional already.
Right.
I love it.
Right. I love it too. I think it's good. I think it's good for everybody, right? Because I always feel like even with injury and stuff, like these guys bring a lot of money to the schools as well. Like people want to go see some of these big stars. And
yeah,
I love the transfer portal too, because like you said, Jahmyr Gibbs, that's a big one. Like him being able to go to Alabama and really showcase his talent. We really think before he would have been a top 10 pick. Like, I don't think that would have happened. So
no, I mean, playing in the ACC, you have decent competition there, but going to Bama, playing in the SEC really showed all of us exactly everything that we needed to see, because we knew Jahmyr Gibbs was fast. It was, how is he going to play against an elite defense? And he got to play against some of the best every Saturday.
Right. Now, do you think it's more alarming if people don't go? Like if we're seeing somebody in a lower class sit there and dominate, but they won't go anywhere else? Like, do you think that's kind of alarming in your process, or is that something that like you're just kind of like treading lightly and seeing how it happens?
I mean, I think that's dependent. We just saw that this year with Ashton Genty, right? Playing in the Mountain West Conference, and he was the 6th overall pick in the NFL draft. So, I mean, I think it is dependent. I think a guy like Genty showed enough skill set that you weren't really worried about it. But, I mean, if there was a guy like, Ahmad Hardy this year who transferred to Mizzou, if he had stayed where he was at, I don't know if I would be as high as I am on him. But now, he's getting this new opportunity, and so I'm very excited to see how he's going to play in the SEC. Have some questions about his offensive line, but so like I said, it is specific player dependent.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I see exactly what you're saying. I think what we want to touch on here real quick, even before we get into these prospects. So I kind of made a little bit of a list. Now, I don't have a big list. These are just guys that a normal, I feel like, dynasty player would know. Like, and I'm going to say average, right? Like, I'm not going to sit here and say I know a bunch of these names. I don't, but I got some names on here of the guys that I know. But I kind of want to touch on Arch Manning before we even get into any of these, because it doesn't seem like he will come out next year. Do you think that's pretty solid that he's going to stick around? And is he everything that he's hyped out to be?
I mean, speaking of hype, Andy, I think by the end of this, he might be the most hyped prospect that we've ever seen. And I get it, right? He's got the Manning last name, so that pedigree. Anytime you have the name Manning, people are going to be excited. But what I really like about Arch Manning is that he bid his time. Right. He could think about it this way. We talk about NIL and this. He had offers to go to bigger schools. No, I won't say bigger schools. He had offers to go to other schools and go and probably start immediately if he truly wanted to. But he didn't do that. He stayed there. He bid his time and he developed. He's in the Steve Sarkisian offense there at Texas, who I believe is the best play caller in all of college football. So he's in a good offensive system. He's developed. He's got chemistry with guys like Ryan Wingo and other pass catchers there. So I'm really excited, man. Dad was a wide receiver. Mom was a track star. Still got the Manning bloodline. He has legit arm talent, legit Konami upside for fantasy. So, I mean, Is the hype real? I think it is. Now, we haven't necessarily always seen it on the field, but the limited samples that we have gotten were really good and really exciting. Not to say he's a perfect prospect right now. For me and Devi, a lot of people already got him penciled in as the number one Devi quarterback asset. I don't, simply just because we haven't seen it yet. I would not be surprised if by midseason I vault him up there, but I'm playing a little hesitant because it is still football. You have to go out there and prove it no matter who you are. And like you said, we don't expect him to come out in this draft. In fact, his grandfather's already said it, that he wants him to get 30 collegiate starts, which if you just do the math, that's gonna go on into next year. And it's kind of the Manning way. Peyton Manning played all 4 years. Eli Manning played all 4 years. And if Cooper hadn't gotten injured, I think he would have played all 4 years as well.
Yeah. He almost seems like that perfect build that we want to have, right? Like the whole bloodline, like just really I think the sky is the limit for him. I really like Arch. I really think that this could work out. And I don't know. I think it kind of speaks a lot too that he stuck around, even though Quinn Ewers was the one that got the start, that he's like, hey, I'm not going to sit there. My time's coming. It's okay. Like, I think that shows a lot of characteristics about him as well.
Oh, yeah, definitely mature. I don't know how many other quarterbacks would have made that choice if presented with an ulterior. I mean, Tennessee was recruiting him pretty hard throughout that whole process. There was a lot of questions at the time, the whispers, is Arch going to leave? Is he going to go to Tennessee? Obviously Peyton played there. They really wanted another Manning there. There was a lot of pull there, and to his credit, he didn't. He talked about sometimes things are worth waiting for.
Yep.
And this is one of those things.
I love it. Boy, the comments are hot and heavy. We have Sellers over Arch. Ooh, how do you feel about that? We will talk about Sellers.
I mean, I don't hate it. If we're talking about fantasy football, right? Lenore Sellers down the stretch, there was nobody better than him last year. And just watching him, it was like you sniff those fantasy points hitting your dynasty roster eventually with those legs, with the arm. My comp for Lenore Sellers is Dante Culpepper with some juice, right? So he can actually move. Ooh. So, I mean, think the big frame like Dante Culpepper, big arm.
Yep.
He could run. I mean, 6'3", 240 pounds at 19 years old.
He's a big dude. He's a big
boy
dude
that can move, man. Big boy that can move.
Ben saying that Mike, you misspelled Bryce Underwood. So, well, we're talking about all these quarterbacks. So I say let's go ahead. Let's get into them here. So the first guy I really want to talk about is Garrett Nussmeier. So he's kind of been a hot commodity, I feel like, for Dynasty, because I feel like he's somebody that everybody just kind of knows. So how do you feel about him as a prospect? And do we think he can take another step forward, coming out of LSU here?
I mean, simple answer is yes. If you have ever looked at any of my work, everybody here in the comments knows how I feel about Garrett Nussmeier. He's the Gumbo Gunslinger. First year starting in the SEC, another guy who bid his time, right? He had to sit behind Jaden Daniels a couple of years. 4,000 yards as a first-year starter in the SEC is nothing to write home about. They had a very good offensive line. However, they rushed the least of any SEC team last year. So by the time it got to third down, any close games, you knew exactly what was going to happen. They had to put the ball in Garrett Nussmeier's hands and ask him to go win the game. Now, sometimes he's able to fit the ball into tight windows, really displayed that kind of like gunslinger mentality. It also worked against him. Again, as a first-year starter, he just made boneheaded throws sometimes to cost him. And so that's the knock on Garrett Nussmeier. And I think there's a little bit of that negativity and bad sense baked into his profile. When somebody hears Garrett Nussmeier, they go, oh, he can't handle the blitz. He can't handle the pressure. Failing to look at the further context that there really wasn't any semblance of a team around him, right? That they were one-sided on the offensive side of the football. They were pass-heavy team. So I think if you give him more of a run game, which they're dedicated on doing this year, they got Caden Durham there and a freshman named Harlem Berry who look to make a really good running back tandem. Now, the question surrounding LSU this year is going to be, how can their offensive line hold up? They lost 4 starters to the NFL draft last year, including Will Campbell, who went top of the draft to the Patriots. So that's something that they're going to have to answer. But in terms of Garrett Nussmeier, he's got all the arm talent in the world. He's somebody who really wants it. He could have entered the draft last year. He could have probably been a top pick if he wanted to, but he's committed to LSU. He's lived there pretty much his whole life. He wants to win a title for them. It's just he's got to clean up some of the messy parts of his game. That, I do comp him to Tony Romo. He's the same size, kind of same frame, spins around, makes very similar plays to Tony Romo, especially with that gunslinger mentality. The negative part of his tape is also like Tony Romo, like early career Tony Romo, where he was just throwing these bad interceptions that you're like, dude, what are you doing? But those things they're fixable, right? You have to go through the games, you have to play, and you have to get that experience. So I think this year is where we see him take that next step forward.
Yeah, I think that's a great breakdown. That's what I've always heard with him, is he's just a complete gunslinger. So how would you compare him to Cam Ward? Who would you rather have there?
I'd probably go Cam Ward, just because I already know he's got the draft capital. I really like the situation that he's in. People, a lot of times when these guys go into our dynasty rosters, they're like, oh, he went to a terrible situation. Talking about Cam Ward, went to a terrible situation. He doesn't have any offensive weapons. I will fight with anybody who says that, because part of your offensive weaponry should be your offensive line. They've got some of the best offensive line coaches known to man there. They've built a wall in front of him, low key, that a lot of people don't really talk about. Still got Calvin Ridley. They got A.O. Manor on the outside. They drafted his guy Restrepo as well. I mean, you give a guy like Cam Ward time, he's gonna tear up defenses, all three levels of the field. The off platform, different arm angles that he could throw with. So, I mean, in a vacuum, I'm taking Cam Ward just because I know his situation right now. Now, if you're asking me to grade them simply as prospects, I think I'd still go Cam Ward, knowing the full picture. I mean, again, he's a guy that had to fight his way and transfer up, right, and develop his game. And that's something that I hold in high regard. I always talk about what you go through molds you. And so when these guys go through the adversity and they show me that they can handle it, right, and they can improve, I'm going to take that into consideration too. So good question, Mike. Appreciate that one.
Yeah, Cam Ward was somebody through the process. I'm like, okay, like he's okay, but I love his attitude. I love how he carries himself, how he called, this whole team, and really just kind of stepped forward into that leader, like just being that person, like at such a young age, like being a rookie. I think it's great. And that's something that we can't take away from prospects. Like, I know when Puka Nacua came out, I would have never guessed Puka Nacua would be this good. But one thing I did say about Puka is, like, I love the fight in him. He has a mentality. He's going to get every yard. And we see it in the NFL, and he got the chance and, really took off. So I never discount somebody's attitude and just willingness to do whatever they need to do. And I agree with you about this line. They've really invested capital. They have the coaching staff there. Calvin Ridley he's still good. Like, I mean, there's nothing wrong with Calvin Ridley. And I think Tony Pollard low-key is a real good stash, dynasty and redraft. I mean, like you said, this line's amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you for talking about Nussmeier. That makes me feel better, because I feel like people are already kind of just doubting this 26 class. They're like, I want 27 picks. Now, I'm not saying the 27's bad or nothing, but like, it is 2 years away. And I mean,
right.
It's a lot can happen in 2 years. So
it's the trap that we fall into, right? The shiny object. We did this in 2022 and 2023. Sell those picks because 2024 is on the horizon. Turns out there was some pretty good picks in both of those draft classes. I mean, you pretty much could have rebuilt your entire roster if you made the right picks in 2022 and 2023. So, I mean, in Dynasty, I'm hesitant to play that in terms of just pure game strategy. You know that those rookie picks are always going to increase in value the closer that you get to the NFL draft. I don't care what people are saying here in August of 2025, what the value is going to be down the road in 2026. People are going to get FOMO. They're going to want to be in there. And the value of those picks are still going to increase. That's the nice part about playing dynasties. You have that liquid asset that's always going to hold its value and then increase the closer you get to the draft. Absolutely. The danger comparatively when you play in Devy is you still have those assets. However, they're not quite as protected because you put the name on them, right? But it's the same concept. So, I mean, little trick if you want to talk about some game theory sometime. But
I like it. Now, the next guy I want to talk about real quick, Cade Klubnik. So this is somebody that I've heard a lot of people have been kind of hyping him up and saying they don't know who the quarterback one is. Is it Nussmeier, Klubnik that's coming out. I mean, of course, we're going to talk about Sellers if he is, and I'll get your opinion on that. But like, so how do you feel about Cade Klubnik? I feel like, watching him, he's more mobile. He has some mobility to his game, but I want to hear your thoughts.
In the comments, Ben just said Dustin was waiting for this. Yeah, he knows. He knows I was definitely waiting for this. I was on with the FF Dynasty boys, and I got to do a way too early 2026 mock with them, and they kind of grilled me a little bit about my love for Cade Klubnik. But I guess I just answered it right there. I didn't want to like Cade Klubnik, but I got some of that all 22. Really broke down that Texas game last year. They had to come back and fight their way in that game, and he had two stud freshman wide receivers that he was throwing to, in Bryant Wesco and TJ Moore, and of course the veteran there in Antonio Williams, who's a wide receiver you're going to want to check out for 2026, by the way. I feel like Cade Klubnik is just a guy who I compare him to Bo Nix, not in terms of play style, but in terms of community value coming out of college. Bo Nix was a guy who, even though 2 years working at Oregon, had really refined his game, put up good numbers. People still had this like preconceived notion about who Bo Nix was as a prospect. And as you could see, my guy California Cool says Klubnik is a bum, which kind of proves my point that when you bring him up, people are just like, Klubnik sucks. They said the same thing about Bo Nix, failing to look at these translatable traits that we know can make you a really good prospect in the NFL. Yeah, he's a Gamecock fan. That's why. So, hey, you guys beat him. You guys beat him, man. So, Lenore Sellers, man, that was an incredible game. But talking about Cade Klubnik, you mentioned the rushing upside. It's there. He has a 75-yard rush on tape. They have him in the zone read concepts too. People don't realize what a good rusher he is. But aside from that, he's just a surgical passer. He's a guy that he's going into year 3 of this Garrett Riley offensive system. That's Lincoln Riley's brother, for those who don't know. It's 3rd year in the system. He's really got full command of it. And I think part of why people hate him is because he had a really bad sophomore season, like really bad. And I can't discount that. But go figure, another year in the system, another year older, he developed and he got better. And this year, he just put it all in tape. I think he's an intermediate surgeon. He's not like a big rocket-armed, down-the-field bazooka type, but the 10 to 19 yards, he's going to kill you. And I think if he were to be paired with a good offensive mind like a Sean McVay, I could really see him running a system like that to its peak. And he would be a guy that you'd be like, oh, man, how could we not see this coming? Or like Bo Nix, oh, he just got paired with the perfect offensive coordinator. And guess what? It only takes one team to truly believe in these guys to bring out the best in them. And I just think he does a lot of good things well. I think he's a guy that offensive coordinators are really going to like because they don't have to worry about Cade Klubnik. They know he's going to be able to go out there and operate the system. He's not going to do any boneheaded things. He's not going to like pull an Anthony Richardson and just pull himself out of the game because he's tired. He's a leader. Anthony Richardson didn't deserve the shade there. I don't know why I did that, but
I'm here for it.
I do think that you can put him out there. He's now going to be very experienced by the end of all this, which is another plus that these scouts are going to look at. And I think he could just go in there and operate as an NFL quarterback. Now, do I think he's going to be quarterback 1 in fantasy and all this and that? No, but I think he could be like a Jared Goff, a dependable type that will score you points in your lineup, and you could plug him in and not have to worry about it. And that's valuable. We always want the elite guys on a roster at every spot, but you're going to have depth. You're going to have these, consistent scorers for your teams. That's just the fact of the matter. So I view him in that same vein. I think he will be probably one of the top quarterbacks taken in the real NFL draft. And that draft cap is probably going to elevate his dynasty portfolio as well.
Right. Who do you think you would take there then, Nuss or Klubnik? We have California Cool that is asking.
Yeah, that's a good question. In my draft, the way too early 2026 mock, I actually had Garrett Nussmeier going earlier. I think he would go, and why I would take him is because I think he has more potential down the road with the arm talent. Now, Cade Klubnik might get the better draft cap simply because he doesn't have the like errant throws. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think that's going to turn some teams off because Garrett Nussmeier, he's the type that he sees it and he rips it, right? His dad being an offensive coordinator for Florida, Michigan, all those teams like that. He grew up in quarterback rooms. He grew up around this, and I think he just kind of has that arm arrogance that can separate him.
Right. Right. And that's a bad thing. Like, whenever you do make, like you said, some of them boneheaded throws, them are throws that, like, you want to see guys come back and be like, hey, it's cool. Like, I got this. And, I think that's another important thing about Cam Ward, not to keep going back to Cam Ward, but I love that about him. Like, there's just so many things throughout. Like, I just take the film and kind of just like, I don't disregard it because it's still really good, but I'm just like, man, it's just some things that these guys do that you can't see on film, that you just hear. You just see reports and everything else. So I like them breakdowns.
Thank you. I was just going to mention, just to further your point, both of these quarterbacks do really have a lot of the intangible stuff that I like. And my co-host Chris, who just hopped in the chat, he's a guy who's real big on those intangibles. Both of these guys, by all accounts, are very good leaders. Talking about Klubnik and Garrett Nussmeier, they're both seen as tremendous leaders. I know NFL teams are going to like that. You know what I mean? So you have to take that into consideration.
Absolutely. So, like, out of curiosity, we're not going to get too far off track. How do you feel about Jackson Dart as a prospect? Did you think he was drafted a little too early? I mean, how would you compare him to these guys?
Well, Jackson Dart might make me look foolish, but I was pretty critical of Jackson Dart throughout the entire process. Maybe looking back at it too much so, because I really just didn't like the offensive environment the system specifically that he came from with Lane Kiffin. A lot of the reads were already predetermined for him. He didn't really have to process a lot and make those reads. It was all designed right there. Get the ball out quick. And, it's a great college system. And so I did have my doubts how that would translate to the NFL. A couple things that he has going for him, though, is he landed in a spot that supposedly has a good offensive mind, and it's in a place that he didn't have to start right away, and which were all positive. So good for Jackson Dart. To answer your question, though, how I would compare them as prospects, I would have Garrett Nussmeier and Cade Klubnik above Jackson Dart. But it would be close. But yeah, if they were in the same draft class, I would have those two above him, probably in a tier ahead of him.
Yeah, I was personally a little surprised he went in the first round. I know there was some buzz. I mean, then the whole Shedeur Sanders thing happened.
Yeah.
I really didn't think anybody was going to go up and get him, especially whenever the Steelers passed on him. Being a Steelers fan, I didn't want to roll with Rodgers, but that's where we're at.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I didn't think he would go in the first either, but I get it because you get that extra year, the fifth year team option. I think that's huge for these teams to have another year of cost control on these players. I think it's huge, and I think that was the determining factor. Let's trade back up and get back into the first round, make them a first round draft pick. Get that,
and that's something that's always undervalued. And I agree with that 100%. We've seen the Ravens do that with Lamar Jackson, trading up the end of the first round. And whenever these guys do hit, like you said, when you have that extra year that you can spend somewhere else, if it's to help bolstering the offensive line, if it's taking a luxury pick with a running back, overpaying a running back a little bit, that's how you can get to championships. So Washington's in a good spot right now. We don't know what's going on with Terry McLaurin, right? But hopefully they can get something done because they don't have to pay Jaden Daniels right now. They got a ton of cap room. They can really help bolster everything. I mean, I know Debo's there. We've seen Debo. Debo didn't look fat, by the way. All these haters on Debo, man. I don't get it. All these haters, but yeah, man, I 100% agree with that. That's something that's really undervalued. And Jackson Dart's looked good so far this preseason.
Yeah, he has. Like I said, he's probably going to make me look like a fool because I was pretty critical of him pre-draft. I had a lot of hate in my heart for Jackson Dart, and then he goes and tells me, the eye paint thing is for Anakin Skywalker, and I'm like, all right, that's pretty cool. I like that Jackson Dart. I guess and maybe I'm just a hater because he was originally with USC. I'm a Trojan fan, by the way, USC fan. We recruited him, we had him there, and then of course he left because we brought Caleb Williams. Go figure. Maybe I just hated on him for that. Looking back, I don't know.
Let's get to our next guy here, Drew Aller. So, as a Penn State guy, how I feel weird about him.
Let's talk about it.
I feel like he has a big arm and like there's some things, but I also look at him just like I just don't think he's that good. Like
Yeah.
I and I have buddies that went to Penn State that like, really like the guy. Not saying I know him personally, like there's Penn State fans, but like oh man, like watching him out there in the field, I don't know if he has it. In my opinion, I don't know if he has it. I'd love to hear your opinion.
Yeah, he's a guy that I've said when the lights are big, he plays small. I mean, that's
Mhm.
evidenced by 5.5 yards per throw in the playoffs. He's got the big arm. He's got all the talent in the world. Now you can make all the excuses you want for him. The offensive system has two really good running backs out there. They haven't had the best pass catchers. But at a certain point, when the game's on the line and you got to win it, you need your quarterback to elevate you and carry your team to that next level. That's how you win games now in college and in the NFL. That's what all the elite prospects do. That's what all the elite quarterbacks in the NFL do. It's just unfortunately the standard that you are held to if you play the quarterback position. So he's got a lot of the things that you look for, right? You talked about the big arm. Absolutely does. However, it's like why is Coach Franklin not taking the training wheels off?
Yeah.
When are we gonna see him take that next step? So I am very critical of him, and like I told my co-host Chris, who's a big Penn State fan, right? He's an alum there as well. So he loves his Nittany Lions. I don't hate Drew Aller. I really don't. When he came out as a prospect, he was like my type of quarterback. Big frame, big arm. I was excited for him. Like, okay, Penn State got a 5-star guy like that at quarterback. Since when do they do that? And it's just been a lot of the years where I'm just left wanting. Like, where are the big throws by Drew? Where are this? Not saying he hasn't made plays, but I just want to see more. So for this year, my goal for Drew Aller is just to truly take that next step. Okay, you have no excuses because now you're like one of, if not the most experienced quarterback in the Big Ten. You got a very experienced championship-ready team. Nick Singleton and Katron Allen came back. That's 2 returning 1,000-yard backs. You got Pena in the transfer portal, who's a pretty good, decent wide receiver. Maybe not the level of talent you would have wanted them to pursue, but, they did get something there. They're always going to have good tight ends. Offensive line is going to be good. Defense is going to be good. I want to see him take the next step, though. I want to see Drew Aller put the team on his back and go and win games. But if you were asking me today, I mean, I didn't even include him in the first round of my last mock draft.
Wow. Yeah, I don't blame you. And then whenever you do have 2 really good running backs there as well, we kind of see it with Ohio State. I mean, we had Will Howard, then we had Judkins and Henderson. I mean, they really, really helped propel that team. And I mean, I don't want to forget wide receivers, with Ibuka and Jeremiah Smith and everything, but like, that running game really, really helped them propel and kind of get everything moving. So I'm with you. I want to see him take a step forward. As I don't really have a favorite college football team, but being a Pennsylvania guy, Penn State is my team. I mean, I could go Pitt, I could go Penn State, but I go Penn State. I go Penn State. So I'm with you. I really want to see it, and he's got to show a little bit more, especially in these big games.
Yeah, he's definitely an NFL guy, though. Like, so for my people playing Devy, I get it. Like, he's gonna make the NFL. At the worst, he's a day 2 guy. At the very worst, just because of the traits, there's gonna be some team that sees that frame, the arm, and they're gonna. I mean, and he can run, right? And that's something else I want to see more. I really want to see him take over. I want to. This is his final year in college. Go out and take it.
Yep.
If Arch Manning doesn't declare like we think, and we talk about Lenore Sellers being potentially the best quarterback in this group in 2026, Sellers might not declare either. Like, I know we pencil him in, but he's going to be 20 years old. He might not play. He's already turned down $8 million to transfer to another school to stay with the Gamecock program. I could see him staying his final year and really, hopefully having more recruits and really building for a championship run. He just seems like that type of person. So I personally would not be surprised if Lenora Sellers stays in school for his final season, at which point then you're really like, okay, the deepest and probably best position in this draft class has now been significantly weakened with no Arch and no Sellers. Now who's your QB1, right? You're looking at Nussmeier, Klubnik, and Drew Aller.
Yep.
Who's the top guy there? So, I mean, he would have a chance in that situation to really elevate and push for QB1. But based on what I've seen, I don't expect it.
Yeah, and that's exactly who we were going to go into, and that was honestly my big question is, if this is a quote unquote little bit of a weaker draft, quarterback draft class than 27, would he declare early just so if he had a chance to be that number one pick? I think that's what a lot of people are assuming. I don't know the answer. That's exactly why I love to have you on and kind of get, pick your brain, because he's an asset that I really want to try to get. I mean, you see this guy run, you see the big arm, you see the flashy plays, and people love highlights. And as a George Pickens guy, when he was in Pittsburgh, George Pickens is a hell of a receiver, but when he makes these crazy one-handed catches, it's fun to watch. It really is. And I'm not taking away anything as a player, but people see that, and I feel like value goes up, it spikes up. And Sellers is kind of that guy that makes these big flashy plays. And I mean, I'm here for it, don't get me wrong, but we can't overpay just on flashy plays as well. So,
and Lenore Sellers has a lot that he has to clean up in his game. I mean, we talked about I think he's an underrated passer. He's got a great base. The mechanics are NFL ready. However, I mean, he held the ball a lot last year. PFF charted him at 3.3 time to throw. I mean, that's just not going to get it done in the collegiate level, and definitely not at the NFL level. He's back there playing Superman at times. At times he'd make the wow plays like against Clemson, breaking away from a defender and making a big run for a touchdown. Other times he fumbled the ball, and it was a big problem. I'm talking 11 fumbles on the year for Lenore Sellers, and quite simply, he could have had more. Like, his teammates bailed him out a lot. So again, 19-year-old, first-year starter in the SEC. These things are to be expected. You expect him to take that jump this next season. My point is, he's not a perfect prospect, and there are things that he can stay back and work on.
Right. Would you like to see him stay and keep working, you think, or just see how this season goes?
I want every quarterback to stay as long as possible.
Yeah,
I really do. I do. And I think the NFL really values that now. They value the experience, because here's the sad truth of the matter. We talk about players going to the NFL and being developed. Well, that's BS, because the NFL isn't going to develop you. I don't know any professional organization, whether it be football or something else, that develops you at that level. If you are a pro, you're expected to already have that baseline, right? To be at a certain level. They're not going to develop you. Your development in the NFL comes in the off season in your own time. But when you're in season, these coaches are teaching you the concepts, the playbook, and they expect you to be able to go out there and perform.
Yep.
So, I mean, if you really want to develop, the best way to do it is to stay in school. And going back to the question at the top of the show, that's what makes NIL so great, is because these guys are able to stay in school now. There's a little more financial incentive, right, to stay. I can stay and make money and get the development, potentially elevate my draft stock. There's a lot more there's a lot more pros now versus cons, versus back in the day, it used to be like, well, I could go and make money or stay and potentially get hurt and lose money.
Yep.
Right. Yep. So I would always advocate for anybody to stay. Now, you kind of touched on it. If he stays in school and he declares in 2027, well, now you're competing with guys like Arch Manning, Jeremiah Smith, Ryan Williams, DJ Lagway, on and on and on. That 2027 class is hyped up for a reason. So, I mean, I'm sure he would have agents in his ear telling him, hey, look, realistically, you have a better shot of going up top here, versus if you went in 2027, you might be the 10th pick, something like that. So I can see in that situation him declaring in 2026, especially if he has a really big season like we all expect.
Yeah, and I feel like guys with athleticism like him, and I don't know how he is as a prospect, but like, something that scares me is if things aren't going right, you rely on your athleticism, right? Like Anthony Richardson, we want you to develop as a passer, not just rely on your athleticism. Like, when things get tough, we don't want you just to run. We want you to check down and see where the ball needs to go and learn to read these defenses. And, Anthony Richardson, I know we put shade on him earlier, but didn't have a lot of college experience, and it definitely showed in the NFL. And I agree 100%. Bryce Young, the first overall pick, after a year, they're talking about, hey, is he going to be our quarterback next year? And that's crazy to me. I mean, you go out and spend the number one overall pick. And nothing like saying that he needed to develop, but it's just like people want production now. It's such a cutthroat league. Coaches aren't given the time they should to be able to rebuild these things and try to work things out. We seen in that Justin Fields class, Justin Fields has played for multiple teams. Mac Jones has played for
Mhm.
multiple teams. It's
Yeah,
just a
and
very short leash with these guys.
that's an excellent point. That not only do you not get a lot of time as a player, but the coaches aren't afforded a lot of time. So why would you want to take a guy that's a big project that you have to develop? Your job's on the line with this, right? You're making a top pick. You got to nail that quarterback. If you're picking a quarterback, you have to nail that pick for your job too, because you're not getting 4 years to develop these guys.
Nope.
Yeah. So, but the good thing is Lenore Sellers is not Anthony Richardson. He's by the end of it all, he's going to have much more experience. I think he's just naturally a better passer too. Like his mechanics are great, and he's overall a better processor as well. He can read the field better. He's not Anthony Richardson.
That's good. That's good news to hear at least.
Yeah.
And bad thing with Anthony Richardson too is just unfortunately injuries have just been a major part, and not even all of them are his. I mean, even the dislocated finger, first preseason game, like it's very, very
Yeah.
unfortunate. But let's
Yeah,
go
that goes
ahead.
back to high school. That goes back to high school for Anthony Richardson.
And it does. That was a big knock on him coming
Mhm.
out, but we all wanted to swing the bat. And before we get into the running backs, I want to ask you this real quick because I've said this a lot on my show. Is just basically, we swung the bat on Anthony Richardson as like a top 3 pick. Some maybe took him 1 or 2 in that draft class. I'm fine swinging the bat on Jalen Milroe at the end of the second, early third
Yeah.
round, just because I feel like he's just as athletic. And I'm not saying he's a great passer, but I think he will have some time to develop. They have Sam Darnold there at least for this year and probably next year. So maybe he could develop and kind of fit into that role. We know they're going to want to run the ball in Seattle. And if he can kind of just keep his feet under himself, maybe there'll be some designed run packages for him to get him out in the field and just see what he has. I'm fine swinging the bat on the end of the second, early third, and Superflex drafts on Jalen Milroe.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big price difference, right? For potentially the same type of outcome. So I'm right there with you. I mean, I want to say I was a big Jalen Milroe guy, but I mean, he went to a Kubiak offensive system. I'm very familiar with that. Denver Broncos have never won a Super Bowl without a Kubiak calling plays for us. So I know all about that system. I think if he learns to play under center and gets that boot play action game going, there's a lot of things to like about Jalen Milroe. At times, he would be a superb passer. Go back to the Iron Bowl in 2023 versus Auburn. Game on the line. They're pushed back 4th and 20 or something. He stands in the pocket tall and throws a dart to Isaiah Bond to win the game. It was an incredible throw in the corner of the end zone that really shows you his potential. And then, of course, he just ran all over the SEC with his legs. So, I mean, there's a lot there, and he has a lot more experience, to our point, than Anthony Richardson ever did. So another guy that's going to be able to sit behind Sam Darnold, soak up that system, and then potentially make a play. And at price, I'd rather take that swing there, because if you spend a second overall pick on Anthony Richardson, you're hurting.
You missed out on some really good players. You definitely did. Let's go ahead. Let's talk about some of these running backs. So I think probably one of the highest guys on this list, Jeremiah Love. So I'd love to get, no pun intended, would love to get your thoughts on him.
Yeah, I mean, what's not to love, right? He's just a really good back, very explosive. In the playoffs, he had the college football playoffs. He had the play of the playoffs, 99-yard scamper versus Indiana. It was beautiful, but on the 1-yard line, took it outside and just beat everybody with his speed. I really like Jeremiah Love. I know his freshman season, he got some work behind Audric Estime, a little bit of work there. And then the next season, he put on 20 pounds of weight, which was huge. And he definitely needed that. The biggest knock on Jeremiah Love is going to be his durability. You saw him as the season progressed, he started to wear down. In the playoffs, he got hurt and he couldn't finish out. But he's very tough. He's very gritty. another big play that he had in the playoffs was against Penn State. He had Abdul Carter and a couple other defenders there on the goal line trying to hold him back. He did a little mini hurdle with his hurt ankle over a defender and just kept pushing and got the touchdown there against a very good Penn State defense. So, I mean, he shows you a lot of the heart, a lot of good things. I think he's an underrated pass catcher out of the backfield. One of my biggest knocks with him, though, is his running style. He kind of has like that DeMarco Murray upright type of style, which just it's presenting your body a target to the defender. And as a former safety, I know if I see that, I'm gonna knock you the F out, right? Like I'm reaching for that ball too. I'm gonna hit you. And so that worries me with him. But I mean, those are minor knocks. He's got to show that he has the durability to last an entire season. Last year, with Mike Denbrock calling the plays and Riley Leonard at quarterback, Riley Leonard took a lot of carries from him. Riley Leonard had, I think, close to 1,000 yards, if not exactly 1,000 yards rushing. He's not going to have that this year. So we're expecting him to get more volume. So the question is, can his body handle it? I think so. I think he has the potential to be another first-round running back this year.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, if all goes according to plan, he definitely has that potential. I mean, if you want to compare classes where I would take him, I'd put him right after probably Hampton and Genty. I would put him right there in the Travion Henderson, Judkins, where I had that tier. So like right there on the cusp of being a first rounder. And if you have another season with that level of production, I think it's just the way the NFL is going now, right? If you show if you show X, Y, and Z as a running back, you will be taken in the first round still.
Yep. And that's kind of like the same thing with Travion Henderson. And I love Travion Henderson, but there are some durability questions with him as well. And I think that's a big reason why Judkins came in too. So that way they could kind of split up the work a little bit. So yeah, watching Love, he looks real nice. So I'd love to see him take that step forward. I'm really excited to talk about this next guy, Nick Singleton. So, and I really like Nick Singleton. So I'd love to hear your thoughts here. Like I think him and Allen together look really nice, and maybe you can touch on both of them because I did want to talk about Allen as well. But this is a nice tandem here.
Yeah, it's a great tandem. And talking about Nick Singleton, people either hate him or love him. So I'm right there with you. I do love him. He's like running back 1B in this class currently for me. I can't quite say he's RB2 because he's right up there with Jeremiah Love, and he's an athletic freak. He was clocked at a confirmed laser time 4.38 40-yard dash already. He set the Penn State squat record. That he beat out Saquon Barkley's squat record at 655 pounds. That's absurd, right? Bruce Feldman put him on the freaks list twice, and you can see why. He's violent through the hole. He hits that second gear instantly, and if he's got a crease, he's gone. He's got that explosiveness to him that it's like, stud 1 and stud 2 exactly. Both running backs are very explosive and have a chance to get a long touchdown on every single run, and that is exciting. I think he had a quote-unquote down sophomore season, but he really improved as a pass catcher. And then this final season, it was like he put it all together. He put it all together in terms of rushing, had over 1,000 yards, I believe 10 touchdowns, something like that. His production was absurd. And then again, showed what he can do as a pass catcher out of the backfield. So he's another guy that if all breaks right, I know I sound very positive right now, but if all breaks right, he's another guy that could be potentially another first-round pick. I don't know if we get 2 running backs in the first round this year, but at the very least, he would be an early day 2 guy for me.
Yeah, and I don't discount that too much. I mean, we've seen, Judkins, which I know he has his legal problems, but he got good capital. Like I'm fine. Like in that first 50, like I feel really, really good about that. So. Yeah, I mean, and it's just kind of how the NFL is anymore. We don't really see these guys, especially at running backs. We don't see them go as high as they used to. Now I know we had Genty go high, but it just seems like it's kind of a cutthroat position, and there's a little bit of a discount on it. So I'm still fine. I love how he kind of, like you said, stepped up as a pass catcher. I thought he looked really good in the pass catching department. So and I love that because that's what we need in the NFL now, like especially for fantasy.
You have to be able to do it all. I think he's an
Mhm.
underrated blocker too. That's obviously going to keep you out there on the field. I mean, being able to squat any of these athletes that go to Penn State, you know that they're going to get developed in the weight room. They have one of the best strength and conditioning programs in the country.
Yeah.
And for a guy to come out there and break Saquon Barkley's squat record, it shows you exactly the type of like gym rat and athlete that he is. So I love him, and his counterpart there too, Katron Allen, another 1,000-yard rusher last season, and these two complement each other so well. And I don't think any of us anticipated both of them coming back to school, right? I
No.
think we thought both of them would go to the NFL, but again, to your point, I think it's kind of because of the cutthroat nature that the NFL employs on these guys. Why would you go to the NFL when you could stay, compete for a championship, and still make relatively the same amount of money, right? Going to school.
Yep.
That's the thought process that changes the landmark now for these running backs. Is all right, I could go here and be like a day 2, maybe a round 3 running back, late day 2, or I can stay here, get a championship, really elevate my stock, because if you put on and you perform in the college football playoffs, those are the moments that matter. Those are the moments that people are going to remember, and it locks in that artificial dynasty value too, because people are going to be like, oh, that guy's a stud. I saw him do this in this game. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, little surprising that they both stayed, but I get it too at the same time.
Yeah, and it was a really deep running back class this year.
That
I mean,
too, yeah.
we had guys, I mean, that were going clean in the 4th, 5th round. I'm like, okay, like I like that guy. I'm not saying he's going to be a
Yeah.
stud, but like he's got a job. I think this class of running backs, like from last year, well, I guess this year, are more of like they're gonna put guys that are like Jags probably out of jobs or 3rd string, like guys that are just kind of hanging around on teams will probably either get cut or drop down to the 3rd back, just because they're going to be fighting with guys. I mean, even like Taj Brooks, like very solid player in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember pre-draft, I kept telling everybody in my circle, I can't discount these guys for getting lesser draft capital in a class like this because of the context. Like you said, it's such a deep class that, I mean, you're getting guys like Ollie Gordon in the 6th.
Yep.
That level of talent in the 6th round is incredible. Like we talked about already, he was a Doak Walker Award winner.
Yep.
He was the Devi RB1 before Genty was. Like going into last season, people were looking at Ollie Gordon and projecting him to be that type of back.
Yeah. And unfortunately I drank the juice. I drank the juice. I didn't like Ollie Gordon coming into this season. Like you said, he had the big season, but kind of had the legal troubles and was his head right, something we kind of talked about pre-show. And I think with guys, I think that's what I got to do for my process is like, okay, guys like Ollie Gordon, and there's other people as well. Why did they fall off? Like I got to do my research, for all of my listeners to say, okay, maybe I need to go back another year and see what's different, what happened. And, that I think that's something that's kind of discounted and, I need to work on through my process.
Yeah.
Let's jump into a little bit of Jaden Ott. So he transferred, I believe, right? And then
Yes, sir.
some of the things with him that I seen, he was a Cal guy, right? And he's going to Oklahoma.
Yes. Cal guy, like everybody on that team just transferred after some coaching changes. Cal really just got, that transfer window opened up and everybody dipped. So
Yeah.
But yeah, went to a really good situation. I like what they're doing in Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
They brought in a few transfers. One, John Mateer, who's a guy I hope to talk about. And then they paired him with this Jaden Knott guy who, I mean, it wasn't that long ago that Jaden Knott was, I believe, the #1 running back in his recruiting class. Let's talk about the other Oklahoma stud. Yeah, we got some people in the comments that want to talk about Moneyline Mateer. We'll get there, Ben. Calm down, man. We'll talk about you, man. Right now, we're talking about Jaden Knott, and he's interesting, man. He's a guy that I've been up and down with. Like I've followed this roller coaster from him as a high level prospect to doing some good things on the field and then maybe underperforming a little bit, dealing with some injuries, and now he's transferring and he's gonna get some better competition. And I have to see it with him. He has some tantalizing upside, especially as a receiver out of the backfield. I think that's probably, in terms of like fantasy relevance, I think that's going to be his calling card. because I do have questions about him as an every down back. So
Yeah.
we'll see. But he's a guy that I'm currently not crazy high on, but I am keeping my ear to the ground and I'm watching him. But I do like the system that he's in.
I really love how he sticks his foot in the ground and just kind of does that little juke and just gets around guys. I think he has that explosiveness to him. But yeah, I agree. Kind of looks like a guy that maybe it's a pass catching role or kind of a change of pace guy. Just from the little bits that I seen. Again, I don't know a ton about these guys, but that's kind of what I got out of that. Why did everybody transfer out of there?
They had a coaching change.
Okay.
Especially
Okay.
the running back. There's a guy that they really liked. I mean, you got to think these guys are recruited by certain coaches, and then suddenly they're gone, they're out. Like coaches are on the move too all the time.
Yeah.
I think there was some other internal stuff that maybe hasn't been leaked out. It has to be because it wasn't just the running backs. Eventually, a lot of people started leaving there. So
Yeah.
I didn't really pay attention to it that much. It's Cal.
Yeah.
They're not a real football program. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, guys. I'm a USC fan, guys. I'm sorry. Don't
I
hate
love
me.
the shots. I love the shots.
Thoughts on the Auburn Tigers?
Yeah, let's get your thoughts on them.
Well, they got a lot to prove. I like the talent there. Obviously, I'm a big Cam Coleman guy. Going to be the big sophomore wide receiver there. Back to his recruiting class, he was in my rankings. He was the wide receiver 2 in that class, second behind obviously Jeremiah Smith. So would have gone Jeremiah Smith, Cam Coleman for me. He was a big get for that program, and you saw why down the stretch when Peyton Thorne was really throwing it up to him, and Cam Coleman's coming down with it. Obviously, you got the legal troubles with Malcolm Simmons, the opposite wide receiver out there. So we don't know how that's going to play. Potentially, I'm hearing Perry Thompson could line up out there, which would be great. Another high-end recruit that they got in that same class. And now this season, they got Eric Singleton. Yes, Ben, I was getting there. Eric Singleton, who, if we have Perry Thompson out there on the outside, it really lines up the new transfer from Georgia Tech, Eric Singleton, who's just fast AF. And I think he's a potential big-time riser for this 2026 draft class. Of course, the question is going to be, Simmons was cleared from the legal stuff. Yeah, absolutely, he was. Now we just got to see how it translates to the field. Obviously, I mean, Hugh Freeze is probably on the hot seat too, right? So we got to see how this goes for him. He needs to win games. But yeah, going back to Singleton, I'm very excited for him too, especially if he's able to line up there in the slot. I think he's gonna eat from that position. We know he's fast. He has a unverified 4.2 40-yard dash going back to high school. Again, those aren't laser timed, but it doesn't matter because he's really fast and he's going to get singled up on linebackers. He's going to be a mismatch there in the slot and a really good underneath safety blanket for Jackson Arnold. Speaking of Jackson Arnold, that's the biggest question mark, right, for this team is how is he going to perform? Because last season at Oklahoma, it was not good. He was a very highly touted 5-star recruit, got to start right away in the SEC, had some good legs, but running, I mean, PFF graded him as 45 passing grade. So, I mean, not good. And it did not pass the eye test either. Now, there's some context with that, right? Oklahoma obviously had a lot of injuries on the offensive line and their pass catchers. It wasn't a very good situation, and it just kind of escalated quickly. And playing in the SEC, if you're not playing very good, them boys will get on your head and they'll crucify you a bit. So I'm excited to see him there with Hugh Freeze, who's always been a really good offensive mind. He's coached some of the best wide receivers in college, Antonio Brown, DK Metcalf, guys like that. And he says this group that he has, he puts them up there with some of the best that he's ever coached. So he's putting a lot of pressure on this team too. And so it's very young and it's very exciting, but they got to win games for Hugh Freeze's sake and Jackson Arnold's. But to answer your question, man, very excited about them.
That's awesome. Great breakdown. Love to hear that. I got one more running back to talk about, and I'm kind of curious because this somebody that I feel like has gotten some buzz here, CJ Baxter. So I'd love to get your thoughts on him.
Yeah, I mean, if CJ Baxter is healthy, he's one of the best running backs in all of college football. It's simple as that. That's the only thing that's really held him back. He had he had a really good freshman season coming in. I believe nearly 700 yards as a freshman is really good. Last season, he was really slated to just take over and be the full-time bell cow back in a Steve Sarkisian offense, which is incredible. Going back to my days, USC fan here, Steve Sarkisian was our offensive coordinator back when we were out there winning championships that are revoked now, Ben. Talking about, still a little salty about that, but really good play caller. Not try to go down this rabbit hole. And now Steve Sarkisian was just talking about, he was quoted as yesterday. I put it out on my Twitter saying, hey, look, we were planning on taking it slow with him. We have a guy named Trey Wisner back there who's also really good. But now CJ Baxter, like, he's put in the work. He looks good. He's way ahead of schedule. We don't need to be like that. We could put him out there and be a little more aggressive. So healthy CJ Baxter is going to light the college football world on fire. And he's going to remind people why he was such a highly touted recruit that came in the same recruiting class as Arch Manning. It was a big class for the University of Texas. So he said, hey, leave Michigan out of this. Yeah, Ben. Imagine having a championship taken away. It hurts.
Did he tear his ACL? Was that his injury?
It was, what was it, Ben? You're in here in the chat. You're the PT. It was ACL, PCO, right? It was both. It was bad. It was not a good injury.
I thought it was pretty bad. So at least he's ahead of schedule here. And just watching some of him, he looks like he has it all. Like, Texas has been getting some very good running backs. Ben said it was both. So the good thing, I mean, and I'm no doctor. Ben's definitely the guy. He's definitely the guy I go to for this kind of stuff. At like how I always look at it, if you're young, I feel good about it. Like, I feel okay.
Yeah.
And I think modern medicine's came a long way as well. And we know more about the body, and there's different things we can do. And, it's good to see him ahead of schedule, and I hope he gets it together because Jonathan Brooks, I feel so bad for that guy. Like, I really like Jonathan Brooks, and it's just unfortunate.
Yeah, football is a cold game, right? It's unrelenting. Yeah. Everybody gets beat up, and unfortunately, some are just worse than others, and you can't ever recover from them. But to your point, he has youth on his side, and it looks like he's done really well in the recovery. So big ups for him. I hope to see him dominate Ohio State week 1 for that game. It's Hook'em.
That'd be something.
Yes,
let's talk about some receivers here. Jordan Tyson's the first guy on the list. I'd love to get your thoughts on Tyson.
Yeah, I mean, just go to my Twitter. You'll see my pinned tweet. Back in March, I flag planted and said he's wide receiver 1 of 2026 draft class. He's a guy who could do it all. He could beat you in all 3 levels of the field. Very underrated as a contested catch guy too. Great route running. The only thing, again, that's held him back is injuries. I saw him as a freshman here in my backyard in Boulder, and on a not very good team, he was the leading receiver with 400 yards. Wasn't very good, but he went down with a terrible, gruesome injury, held him out the entire next season, and then he transferred to Arizona State. A lot of questions there with that Kenny Dillingham coached Arizona State team. We weren't really sure. I think they were projected by a lot of people to be one of the worst teams in the Big 12, and lo and behold, they went out and actually won that conference. Him and Sam Levitt, another transfer, redshirt freshman from Michigan State, came in, and they straight up balled together. That down the stretch, there was no better duo than Jordan Tyson and Sam Levitt. They lit the college football world on fire. He had a 6-game stretch where he had 100 yards receiving and sometimes multiple touchdowns down the stretch. And leading up to the college football playoffs, unfortunately, last game of the season, Jordan Tyson went down with a collarbone injury. So again, there's always going to be, that's like now, unfortunately, we're at a point that when we talk about Jordan Tyson, you have to talk about those injuries. Right. I think the collarbone was like a separate type of injury. It's just one of those fluke things. It's football, unfortunately, because I do think that if Jordan Tyson had been healthy, they beat Texas in the playoffs. Like, they were already hanging with them in that game. Cam Scatabo was going crazy with no Jordan Tyson there. They almost beat Texas. And if Jordan Tyson's in that game, you cannot convince me that they would not have beat them. And that Texas is like on par with a pro team almost already at this, with the level of talent that they had, especially on the defensive line last season. Incredible to see. And that was a team from the Big 12 hanging with them that nobody nobody saw coming.
Yeah, that was a crazy game. I tuned into that game. That's Cam Scadaboo is somebody that, yeah, he went completely crazy. Was that the game where he was puking on the sidelines and everybody like had little clips? Or
Was it? I think it might have been. I don't remember. I
it might
remember him
have
throwing
been.
up. Yeah, yeah. That's funny.
But everybody's
Oh,
like, "Oh, this
Cam.
guy's such an animal." And I'm here for all
Yeah,
the I love Cam Scotty. Unfortunately, he's dealing with a little hamstring injury, which is
yeah.
always scary, especially if you're a rookie, because we want you to get on the field, we want you to get reps. But yeah, so I'm kind of curious to where you would put him in this class, because I like compared to this year's class, because I feel like there's been a lot of people that are really in on Tyson, and rightfully so. I mean, watching him, he's an amazing player. I've heard some people kind of knock him because of the whole Arizona State thing, like, oh, who comes out of Arizona State? But I mean, Brandon Ayuk did, so maybe people are still on that N'Keal Harry, like they got burnt by
Oh
N'Keal
no.
Harry years ago. But
I mean, I would have put him. I'm trying to think if I would put him ahead of Tet. I would not. I would have had God, I would have to think about that one. My heart wants to say I'd put him wide receiver 1 in this class.
yeah,
I believe in the talent that much. Tet's incredible too. I like his spot. I'm gonna go chalk. I'll say 3. I'll say behind
I agree.
Tet and Travis, but
And this is just as a
I
prospect.
really want to say wide receiver 1. I really do.
I mean, that just kind of speaks
Yeah.
volumes, though, to how
I
you
think
really,
that the injury history.
yeah, yep.
I
But
really like him. I really do. I like. Go ahead. You froze up a little bit.
oh, yep, I see you now. Yeah, we froze up just a little bit there, but yeah, I'm just a little bit curious about that, because whenever a player like him, can kind of take over a game and change like that, I think that speaks volume, especially against a team like Texas. Well, I think we're freezing up a little bit again, guys. Sorry about
Yeah,
this.
absolutely. I can't speak to him, and yeah, we are.
Well, we good? I think we're freezing up. We will add him back to the stage here. Oh, sorry about this, guys. Oh, can you hear me, Dustin? I think we lost. Yep, I think we're good.
Okay, are we back?
Yep, I think we're back. I don't know what happened there.
That was weird.
I think we're good to go.
We were flowing, and then I saw you start to. Yeah, that was weird. Technology,
Well,
man.
Oh, I know. We'll go to the next receiver here, and that's Elijah Surratt. So I'm kind of curious to how you feel about Elijah Surratt.
I'm higher on him than probably a lot of people in Devi. I think he performed like he almost had 1,000 yards receiving last year with the first time in that program. Kurt Signetti too. I think they just run a tight program there, and I'm excited for him to take the next step this year. He's got a guy who's getting a quarterback who's getting a lot of NFL draft buzz right now in Fernando Mendoza. So there's going to be a lot of scouts watching that tape. So, I mean, the motivation's right there for you to go out there and perform, because, there's going to be a lot of people watching that tape. 6'2", has a good profile production. I think he's another guy that can win in a variety of ways that these players are going to love. I think the best is yet to come for him. He's not a guy that I've done like a lot of extensive homework as a Devi asset, because I wasn't paying attention to him before he transferred in. And he just was a guy that just, for whatever reason, wasn't generating a lot of buzz, at least in my circle. But then you look back as the year, we talk about processes, and one of mine is going back at some of these guys that I missed out on and looking what happened and why wasn't I looking at them. And a big part of it was my bias towards the program that he went towards. And I just had to eliminate that and go back, and I'm looking at it and going, man, he's set up for a really big year. And a lot of people in the Devi space aren't really talking about him that much. I think the NFL draft community is talking about him a little more. But he's a guy that I fully expect to be one of those risers. You know, I saw on the show sheet you talked about anybody that could be a potential riser, and he was one that I was prepared to talk about. But you had him here.
Yeah, yeah. So he's somebody that like I went through, and you're right. That's how I've heard about him. Is this kind of like, oh, he's this outside guy, and I've seen some nice jump balls from him and stuff like that. So again, and that kind of goes to the point, like, can he run routes? Like, that's something that I don't know. Can he run routes? Does he get a lot of separation? Like, is he just kind of a jump ball X guy?
Right now, that's kind of what he's classified into, right? That would be the next step that he would have to take. I think that he can run routes, but it's at the top of the route where you got to break off that stem, and really that's where like the elite route runners are going to get that separation with maybe a subtle little hip movement, head toss here right before they break off at the top of the route, and that's where he's lacking. I think a lot of times you'll see him round those routes too instead of like being a crisp route runner. So just the refinements that he's going to have to make and take his game to that next level. Yep. And that's why you stay in school. That's why you transfer up and go to these different programs. And now I think he's going to have a little bit of a better quarterback in Mendoza. I like Mendoza too, as an NFL guy. So like I said at the top of this, you're going to have scouts watching him. So go out there and go ball out. Hopefully he's been putting in, from like all accounts in camp, he's been putting in work. He looks good. All the superlatives that you hear. I don't know if it's camp hype, because that exists in college football too, by the way. I don't know if you get the camp, especially now, like they're really starting to like treat it like the NFL, where they got the camp clips coming out with like a slow-mo basic little out route. And we're like, oh my God, did you see him catch the ball against air?
Yep.
Yeah. And it works. It works. So, I mean, we'll see in live reps against real defenses, but I mean, the talent's there. He's just got to take that next step as a route runner.
Right. I thought X was gonna break whenever JCM got into the end zone there earlier.
I missed the game. Goodness. Did he make it in?
Yeah, he got in. Oh nice. My God. I thought Twitter was gonna break. I didn't even know if we'd be able to do this show. So
right. Oh my goodness.
But I mean, I'm here for it. I love the hype, but yeah, we know how that goes. And hey, I mean, it not to get too far off track here, but like the whole Brian Robinson news, we'll see. But yeah, it's I think for me, I like guys. See, I kind of have a type, and I used to be like the old school guys that just go up and play X and catch these balls. But I kind of turned into that. Like, I love these route runners. I love the Amon-Ra St. Browns. I love the Justin Jeffersons. But hey, everybody has their spot, and I don't know. I've been burnt on some of these guys that play like him, that kind of just the jump ball, don't create a lot of separation, because the NFL is the best of the best, and they game plan for that. So hopefully, I'm with you. I hope we see him putting in that work, and all accounts that he is, and can kind of make that next step. But next guy I want to talk about here, Carnell Tate out of Ohio State. So from what I got out of him, it looked like he's more of a route running type player.
Yes.
Kind of like Emeka Egbuka in a way.
Very much so. He's in that same vein, that same type of wide receiver. I think he's a little bigger than Egbuka. I know Carnell Tate's listed at 6'3". So kind of got that size on him too, which watching him play, he doesn't play like that size. He wins with route nuance at the top. He's a very intelligent route runner, which I like. Best thing about Carnell Tate is that he was third read in the offense last season. Obviously, you got Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Egbuka, and then you had Carnell Tate, but you also had, the two great running backs and Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins out there. So a lot of mouths to feed in that offense, but now he's next man up. He's going to be the next one in the progression. And it's exciting. Like you look at his production profile last year, and he still had 700 yards. And I'm talking like he was just the forgotten man out there. Also, you have Brian Hartline, the famous wide receiver coach out there, the guy who's out there recruiting all these 5 stars for Ohio State. With Chip Kelly now leaving to the NFL, Brian Hartline has now taken over as offensive coordinator. So that excites me, because I'm like, okay, how is he going to put his stamp on this team? And I think you saw you saw the writing on the wall last season when Ohio State, after they lost to Michigan, they said, all right, look, we know how teams are playing us right now. Now it's time to go out there and win. We're going to play more 10 personnel, which is having all 3 of your wide receivers out there. And we're going to throw it more. With Texas putting so much defensive attention towards Jeremiah Smith, it really opened up Emeka Egbuka and Carnell Tate, who had over 100 yards in that game. So, now you're easily able to see his role now expanding, and you can project and say, okay, he could very easily clear 1,000 yards in his draft season. And guys with Ohio State, you don't need to play for 2 years. Have one really good offensive season, and you're going to make it to the NFL, and you're probably going to be a first rounder because they know how you're developed at Ohio State, right? It's just one of those programs. It's a pipeline for the NFL for wide receiver talent. And as my co-host Chris says, don't overthink it. Just take the Ohio State wide receiver.
I like it. Yeah, Tate's fun to watch. I mean, all these guys. Jeremiah Smith, that guy's unbelievable. I still have hope for Marvin Harrison. I mean, he didn't have a scrub season. He didn't do what we thought he would do, but I don't want to really just toss the flag on Marvin Harrison. How do you feel about Marvin Harrison? Are you real worried? Because I'm not.
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, your co-host sounds smart, Chris said. Yeah, he's smart and humble. He's smart and humble, that man, Chris. How do I feel about Marvin Harrison? Not worried at all. He had over 800 yards and 8 touchdowns as a rookie. Yeah, that's like very similar, like eerily similar to the numbers that his father put up. And as we all know, his father's a Hall of Famer. So I think that's actually a good little spotlight into the problem with the dynasty community right now is we are so reactionary. Everything has to be right now. We live in the microwave culture where if we don't get that immediate production, well, then you're trash and we move on and we're ready to sell. We panic sell. And it probably doesn't help that the hype was so high. When your production is not relative to the hype, people are going to be disappointed. Was I disappointed? Sure. Am I worried? Absolutely not. There are concerns about the offensive system, but I mean, if Drew Petzing doesn't figure out how to make their highly touted wide receiver prospect work, well, then he's simply going to be looking for a new job very soon. I think Marvin Harrison's job security is a little more secure than Drew Petzing.
Yep, and that's a perfect point. When you put capital in like that, because the one thing that they did not do with Harrison, they mainly made him a pure outside guy, and that's not just his game. Like, move him around, get the ball in his hands. He's special. Like, I agree with you. It's his job over Harrison. Like, I'm right there with you.
Yeah, and thankfully, right, from what we've seen in camp so far, is that they have been moving Marvin Harrison around a little bit more, lining him up in the slot, and that's just what the best offensive coordinators are going to do. Why would you not want your best wide receiver to be able to move around and use him as an offensive chess piece?
Yep.
Why would you relegate him to an outside role where you can't motion? You can't motion an X wide receiver. If they're out there on the boundary, they can't be motioning and moving around. They have to set right there. Why would you do that? Why would you did you watch any film on Marvin Harrison? He's 6'4", but he wins like a little man. He was a great route runner and he won with timing. That's why you saw him in week 2 when they were doing those deep crossing routes, these timing routes against a defense like that, and he took over and he showed how dominant he could be. So am I concerned? Absolutely not. Are there some concerns? Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. But this is how you win in Dynasty, by not being like the masses and just over panicking over little things. We've seen this plenty of times. There's been plenty of examples in the NFL where Hall of Fame players, all pro players didn't have the best season. Can you imagine if Twitter existed when Peyton Manning was a rookie and he led the league in interceptions? Right. Peyton Manning led the league in interceptions. John Elway once famously, as a rookie, lined up underneath the guard.
Yep.
Not the center. He went up underneath the guard, tapped him, was like, he's ready. And they're like, dude, move over. These are rookies, and they have to learn. They go through this process. We expect them all to blow up and be the best ever. And by the same token, you having a really good rookie season does not mean that you're going to have a great career.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. We've seen that a million times too. And I think what didn't help Marvin Harrison is Malik Neighbors came out, tore it up. Brian Thomas is a 1,000-yard receiver. Lad McConkey was the 1,000-yard receiver. So whenever there was other guys, and Xavier Worthy turned it on at the end of the season, when these guys were producing and he didn't, produce what they did. I'm sure him and Worthy were close, but like they're like, oh, I missed because I took him over Malik Neighbors, or I took him over Brian Thomas. That doesn't necessarily mean anything to me. Like, I mean, we
No.
see, and that's no knock. I really like Brian Thomas, but we do see Travis Hunter's in there now. So like, does that cut in a little bit? It's a whole new scheme. I still think he's going to be fine, but maybe
Yeah.
that was one of the best seasons he ever has. We'll see. We just got to see where the touchdowns are and stuff with him as well.
Brian Thomas is a really good prospect.
Oh
Like,
yeah, absolutely.
coming out of high school, he was a higher rated recruit than Malik Neighbors.
Oh wow, I did not know that. I did
Yeah,
not know
like
that.
the
Wow.
talent's always been there. The question was just we thought he couldn't run a full route tree. Turns out LSU just used him in this capacity, but he could do it all. So I mean,
Yeah,
that's that.
he is a great player. He's a great player.
I comped him pre-draft to a slightly skinnier Demarius Thomas. That was my comp for him.
I
A big
like
guy
that.
can go fast. Yeah,
Yeah, I like that.
I was pretty proud of that comp.
I like that a lot. He was somebody I was just higher on throughout the whole process. There was a lot of like between him and Xavier Worthy, and I was team Brian Thomas, and I wasn't as high on Worthy. I think Worthy's played really well though, but I just love that speed out of him and just be able to the body control. I get behind defenders. Like it's a
And
good
he's
player.
6'4",
Yeah.
tall.
Yep.
Like what's not to like? I think
know.
people overthought that one.
Yeah.
And he went to LSU, right?
Yeah.
Take the LSU and Ohio State wide receivers.
Yep. 100% agree. Let's go to USC. Let's go to your team here. Makai Lemon. So I'm curious your thoughts on Makai Lemon.
Yeah, he's going to push early on for wide receiver 3, I think, in the 2026 NFL draft class. Number 1 being Jordan Tyson, number 2 being Carnell Tate. And I think that Makai Lemon is the guy that could push for wide receiver 3. I'll probably get a lot of pushback on that, and people will say, no, it's Antonio Williams from Clemson. I'm going with Makai Lemon. He's one of those guys. He's going to be not an Amon-Ra type. I don't want to say that because he's USC and plays in the slot. But he's a guy that he's going to be able to win in that type of capacity at the next level. Like he's a guy that you could slot in day one, and he's going to be able to play from that position and be able to move around. He could do it all, right? He runs with his route running, underrated contested catch guy as well. And he hasn't had the best quarterback play throughout his career. I mean, Miller Moss was just not doing it. Now we got Jaden Mayava there, and in the limited sample that we got with Jaden Mayava, the offense really clicked. You started to see that connection with him and his fellow wide receiver Jacoby Lane over there. And he's talked about it this season now. He's like, look, me and Jaden Mayava, it's cooking. You guys are going to see it on Saturday, and I can't wait. So, I mean, there's a little bit of projection baked in here, but I fully anticipate him to go out there and ball out and elevate his draft stock. I think he'd be like probably a late first rounder in the 20s, probably around where like Jackson Smith and Jegba and Quentin Johnston were taken back in 2023, kind of the mid to late 20s. You know, I don't think he's like a dominant elite player, anything like that, but he's an NFL guy. He's a guy that's going to go out there and be able to contribute for your dynasty rosters. I think he'd be like a solid wide receiver 2, 3 on your team, probably wide receiver 3 to start out. Which again, a solid contributor, but I don't anticipate him to like be this game-breaking guy at all.
You think it's just a lot just because you think he's going to be more of a slot guy?
I do. I question his ability to move around and win on the outside. I think a lot of times when, even at the collegiate level, when a defender is able to get their hands on him, he really struggles to beat that press man coverage, which you don't see that a lot in college either. Compared to the NFL, you're going to get a lot of hands in your face. They're a lot more physical at that next level. So I got to see that from him before I vault him into that next category. But what he does do well, he does really well. And like I said, he's going to have a role in the NFL. And so I just like that.
Awesome. That's good to hear then. He was somebody that like I've heard of him, but just never really seen too much. So I did go back and watch, and that's the vibe I got. He's a slot guy, very shifty, fun to watch. I thought he was really fun to watch, so I was glad to put him on this list.
Yeah,
I do have
he's good with the ball in his hands as well. Sorry to cut you off there,
no,
but
no, no.
he's
You're
good with the
good.
ball in his hands. I think what works well for him is he has a guy on the other side there in Jacoby Lane that just complements him well. Jacoby Lane's the contested catch guy, the R at the catch point. He's making those contested catches, and then you got a guy right here that's he's going to be like your PPR monster, just eating up targets and volume.
So I remember whenever Amon-Ra came out, he was like a slot guy and everything, and I really liked his film. But some things that I can't remember was he as strong as he is in the NFL, like out of a slot? He just has
Yes.
that dog mentality where people can't stay on him. They try and try and try, and he just gets around him. Was he always like that at USC as well?
Yeah, that's all over his tape. I mean, he was a
Yeah.
big time recruit. People act like he was like this underdog who came out of nowhere. He was a high end recruit. Like and for whatever reason, the NFL just overlooked him. I don't know why. And I am a little biased. Obviously that's my team.
Mhm.
But yeah, he's always been a dog. He's always had that. And the NFL just simply missed on that. I don't know if it was like the size of if they thought it wouldn't work at the next level.
Mhm.
Obviously, back then we were Pac-12, the stigma with the Pac-12 defense, those things. Yeah, wide receiver 16 in 2021.
Yeah, I think he has a list of everybody that was taken ahead of him too.
Yeah, he does. And that just speaks to like the crazy, like insane nature of his outlook on life, which just makes him the great competitor that he is. He's still reading that thing, like all the accolades he's gotten, the big contract, and he's just like, F them, it took them over me. But that's great. That's what you need to be successful in a league like this. You have to have that.
Absolutely. And that's what always goes back to like Tom Brady, right? Like when Tom Brady came out, is he the most athletic? No. Can he throw the ball better than anybody else? I don't know if he can. If he was a Cleveland Brown, would he be Tom Brady? I just think it was a perfect storm brewing. That guy has football just running through his veins all the time. He wanted to get better, telling Robert Kraft, this is the best decision you've ever made is drafting me. And like, I feel like the day he said that, he meant it. Like, it wasn't like, I'm just going to say it. Like, he really meant it. And, it just goes back to that like mentality. And, Amon-Ra definitely has it. He's a fun player to watch. Detroit got a steal, 4th round, wide receiver 16 that year. Man, and that's why it goes back to Cam Ward. Everything leans back to Cam Ward. So
all roads lead back to Cam Ward. Yeah.
We need to make a shirt that says that. All roads lead back
there
to Cam Ward. So I do have a couple tight ends on this list, and these are guys that I kind of had to pull off the internet because I really did not know who to pick. So one of these guys is Max Clare, so transfers to Ohio State. Would this be one of the guys that you would personally put up there as you would like to talk about?
So I pretty famously say that like I don't pay attention to tight ends until they reach my dynasty rosters, and I'm all about buying into those veteran tight ends. Like, give me the Evan Ingram at cost.
Yep.
Give me guys like that. Just simply, so look, we know in fantasy football we have a tight end problem. A lot of us play in heavy tight end premiums because the tight end position is just so lacking at production that you have to have that to even make them relevant. So I don't really pay attention a lot to them. I know Max Clare, obviously he transferred to Ohio State, but he's a guy like Cade Stover. I think he's probably going to get that same level of production, 300, 400 receiving yards, nothing crazy. And, he'll probably get drafted in whatever the 3rd, 4th round, however the NFL treats them. Stowers is by far like probably the consensus tight end one in a lot of the draft like circle chatter. Really good player for Vanderbilt. Again, like I don't have a lot of notes on these guys because I simply just don't care. Like, unless you're a Brock Bowers prospect or somebody like in that vein, and believe me, when a prospect like that comes along, those are the only times I'm really paying attention for in terms of college and then even to the NFL. Like, it's just part of my process. I don't really care. Like, if I'm playing a C2C or a CFF format, college football, fantasy football, I care a little more then. But for Devy and even into my dynasty rosters, I just don't care about these young guys. I really don't. Everybody that fell for the Kyle Pitts hype, like, you're still hurting.
Yeah, that's for sure. So I'm kind of the same way. Like, I'm kind of Brock Bowers, Trey McBride, and a lot of startups. okay, if you want to sprinkle some Kittle in there, but if I don't get one of these main guys, and more so for redraft too, I'm punting. Like
Yeah.
I'm like you. I'm going Evan Ingram. I'm going guys that I feel like can find some volume. And Evan Ingram's kind of tough to put my finger on because I think he could be really good in Denver. And you a Broncos fan, I'm sure, being in Colorado.
Yeah. Got a Knicks jersey on right here. Baseball.
Oh, okay.
Bo Nix jersey. Yeah.
but oh, okay, I see it now. I see it now.
Yeah.
But so my question is, do you think Evan Ingram's how do you think this is gonna all match up? Because I truly like I can really see it going both ways.
Yeah. I mean, he's as long as he stays healthy, I don't see why not. How Evan Ingram has always won is through the middle of the field. When has a Sean Payton offense not looked good when he has a tight end that can dominate the middle of the field? It's
Yeah.
always looked good. It's always looked good. That's what, the Joker role got thrown around a lot this offseason. And something that got me excited is when Evan Ingram came to Denver, he threw out the tweet with like the Joker card, like Batman's Joker out there and like signaling to everybody, hey, we know what role he's going to play in this offense. And shout out to my guy. I don't know if he's in the chat anymore, but Mike from Dynasty Dogs threw out a really good stat. I don't have it on me, but it showed the percentage and the percentages of his production that Evan Ingram got winning over the middle of the field. That's what Sean Payton's Joker role has always been designed to attack, is that middle of the field. And I think you just saw it in this last preseason game against the Cardinals. It was a basic crossing route. There was a good block on the outside, but he was able to take a simple little crosser and use that athleticism to go 60 yards.
Yep.
Could have scored. Like that's a very small sample. But I mean, we have enough historical data in the Sean Payton offense to project like this is what that role looks like in this type of offense. It's something Denver hasn't had in a very long time, since Julius Thomas, going back to that 2013 year with Peyton Manning.
Yep. Yeah, and I feel like he was a guy that was handpicked here for Sean Payton and fits this role very well. I mean, we've seen a great year out of Jacksonville. I'm like you, it's can he stay healthy? I mean, he struggled with the Giants. He had a great rookie year and battled injuries, thought his career might be over, kind of revitalizes it in Jacksonville. So hopefully he can again here in Denver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
12th round startup price. 12th round in a startup.
Yeah, and that's where I'm in at that price. I just it's hard if you don't get them big guys. You got to go down there and take that gamble. I mean, that's kind of where I'm at with that. Now, before we get out of here, I kind of want to ask you, you kind of touched on one guy, but who else is somebody that you really think could take a step forward this year that maybe kind of catches everybody's eye out of nowhere?
Well, I don't know if it's out of nowhere, at least for people in my circle, and even in the chat, you saw some of them alluding to this guy earlier. He's a new transfer there, quarterback to Oklahoma. His name's John Mateer, and he was in the news recently for back when he was a freshman on Venmo. He put sports betting on there, and everybody's saying, oh, he was gambling in sports. He was just being a kid and putting some stupid caption on his Venmo page. But another guy coming from Washington State, he was actually Cam Ward's backup. And again, it all comes back to Cam Ward, right? so he sat behind Cam Ward in Washington State. And then when Cam Ward went to Miami last year, John Mateer got to start for Washington, and his offensive coordinator, Ben Arbuckle, they just made magic. And you could tell he sat behind Cam Ward because he kind of played like the Washington State version of Cam Ward. Mobility within the pocket, able to move around and create, can throw at all different arm angles. Off platform, just real exciting stuff with the arm talent. He does kind of have like a weird base release. I said he could throw from any angle, but his base release, it's kind of like this wonky wind up motion. So I do have concern with that. But I mean, when the lights are on, he's like one of those guys that's just a gamer. He's like got that it factor to me. He had one of my favorite throws last season where it was a naked boot roll out to the left. He immediately had a defensive end bearing pressure on him. He set his base, still took time to throw, and kind of like the sidearm throw down the field on the sidelines, and he layered it over the cornerback and with the safety bearing down, fit it right in between them for a touchdown. That's an NFL level throw that he made, and I was over the moon for him then. He had over 1,000 yards rushing last season when you take away the sacks, because the NCAA is stupid and they count a sack as negative rushing yards for whatever reason. So when you take away the sacks, he had over 1,000 rushing yards. I think he legit has probably like 4 or 5 speed, so pretty athletic. Now he transferred over to Oklahoma following his offensive coordinator in Ben Arbuckle. So now it's going to be his 3rd year in the same system, new team, obviously. But he took that step that we talked about that I like in the transfer portal era, where they're able to transfer up in their level of competition. And now this is going to be the ultimate litmus test for, can he be a true successful NFL quarterback? Can he take what made him good against the stripped down version of the Pac-12? And can he do the same things now in the SEC? To be determined, right?
Yeah.
So we'll see. So I think he's a guy that has the biggest chance to elevate his stock. And it's a big quarterback class. We talked about that being probably the strength of it. Not only is it the strength, I think it's the depth. We didn't even talk about Sam Levitt.
Yep.
Really, we mentioned him a little bit with Jordan Tyson. He's another one. But this guy, Johnny Paycheck, has been talked about. That's what we had called him. We'd been calling him Johnny Paycheck until this whole sports gambling thing came out. Now they call him Moneyline Mateer. But
Moneyline Mateer.
But you have to check him out, man. Check out some John Mateer.
Yeah, definitely. And anybody listening to this, check him out if you don't know him. And I think this gives us a real good list as dynasty players to kind of, get on here and watch some of these guys. What game are you like most excited to see this week? Because since college football, it's happening, man. It's right here now.
Yeah, we got week 0 coming up this weekend, which is Kansas State and Iowa State. Should be a fun game for us sickos. It's going to be played in Ireland. It's the new tradition. Week 0 is played out there in Dublin, so neutral field. We'll see. It's a good way to kick the season off. But week one, we got a lot of bangers, and with the conference realignment, there's been a lot of talk. The best thing about these conference realignments is we get some great games. Like, they're really starting to market it and treat it like the NFL, which is smart for them, a good business move. But week 1, right off the rip, big noon kickoff, we go to Ohio State versus Texas. That's the number 1 and number 2 team, according to the preseason AP poll. Right off the rip, you get number 1 and number 2. And then the night game, you're going to have Clemson versus LSU. So earlier you asked me who would I take between Cade Klubnik and Garrett Nussmeier. Well, week 1, we get to see those two go head to head.
We do.
And that's the primetime game at night.
Oh, that's going to be a good one. That's going to be a good one. And we're going to see some stocks. Maybe both go up. Maybe both go down. Maybe they stay the same. But it's going to be exciting.
There's going to be one winner.
I feel like this has been the first time in years for me that I've been very excited about college football. Like you said, I don't know if it's the marketing. Whatever they're doing, I feel like me just as a fan, like putting everything else aside, I'm just really, really excited to watch some college games this year.
I think for me, it's the marketing, but mostly it's the parity. Like, you look at the AP poll that just came out, and I talked about this on the last episode of the Devi Dojo, was the parity that now exists in college football is incredible. You could look down that list and realistically see 10 teams that can compete for a national championship. And I can't remember the last time that happened. There was always a Georgia or an Alabama that was just obviously the clear-cut top dog. And now, Texas is clearly the number 1 team, but Ohio State just won a national championship, and they still got Jeremiah Smith out there. Penn State returned a lot of really good players. They got a great defense. You can't ever count out Georgia. LSU is a team that gets a lot of steam now too. There's just so many good teams, and the unpredictability now at the top, layered in with the college football playoffs.
Yeah,
12 teams. We had never had that, and that creates a different level of excitement for that. Like, Ohio State in past formats would not have even gone to the playoffs, because it would have been a 4-man, and they would have lost to their rival Michigan, who was not a overall a very good team. They lost to the rival. They would have been out of the playoffs, and we never would have gotten to see that run. Yep. So it's an exciting new era. I think we're like on the dawn of like the golden age now, in terms of college football. So exciting stuff. You, as a guy who doesn't even really admittedly watch that much college football, you're excited.
Yeah. I'm really excited. I enjoyed the playoffs last year. I tried to watch as much as I could with my schedule. It does get hard, but it
does.
I don't know. I love the competitiveness of it. I love this transfer portal, and I really, really, really like where this is going. I think they're doing a really good job with it. So Yeah, I thank you so much for coming on, Dustin.
Of course, of course.
I've learned a lot already tonight. I mean, I can't wait to actually see these guys in action and kind of see what happens. But you know, you were the man to get on here, and I know you spread a lot of knowledge on to me. I mean, your stats, everything are great. You really know what's going on, and you know, love to hear it. And you guys that are listening, go check out the Devi Dojo. Got Dustin and Chris the Card Man. They put on a great show. They have really fun show. You guys mesh really well together. So maybe one of these times I can get Chris on here as well and, you know, talk a little more college football. So,
Oh man, we'd love to come on anytime, man.
yeah, that'd be great. So what I'm gonna do too is I'm gonna post the Discord and the link on the podcast when I do put it out in podcast. So get in there, their Elite Empire Discord, and your guys' Discord's awesome. You guys do a great job and all
Thank you.
kinds of fun stuff. Good talk, and got a lot of good people in there. You know, some Discords people are a little bit like suspect because people can be ignorant. You know, you guys are very welcoming and knowledgeable, and you know, people like me that might ask stupid questions. You're like, hey, it's cool, man.
What I love about the Discord, Andy, is I built it before I ever started creating content. Like it was just designed to originally host mocks and just talk about college or just football in general. And you really see that because that's the foundation of it. And I think that's what makes it that what's different about it. That's the feel. The reason is because it wasn't built on me promoting my content. It was just a safe space for everybody to talk ball, and it's naturally kind of grown. But with that as its foundation, it's really stayed the same. Obviously, it's grown a little bit. It's changed now, but the basis and the people that we have in there are just some of the best ball knowers and just some of the best human beings out there. So, and you're one of them. You're one of them. So glad to have you.
I appreciate it, man. Well, we're going to get out of here. And again, I thank you, and make sure you follow Dustin. Make sure you follow Chris. Make sure you follow the Devi Dojo. Show them love. Go over to the Fantasy Football Power Hour. Go over to the Devi Dojo. Please hit us up with 5 stars. Subscribe on YouTube. Anything. Jump in the Discord. You know, it helps us all out to continue doing these shows because it is a good feeling whenever somebody says, hey, that's a great show. You guys did a good job. So, you know, it's just some kind words and supportive, just any kind of support, you know, we really appreciate it. So again, thank you again, Dustin, and we'll see you next time on the Fantasy Football Power Hour.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yo, welcome to the Power Hour.